Alright, battery light will come on in that little cluster right there. Let's turn the car on. About 15 seconds or so it comes on. This is after 2 brand new alternators and even putting the voltage regulator and brush set in the old alternator. And there's a reason for that. There it is right there. And you'll also get the power system failure over there, so we'll show you what fixes it. Alright, there's the part. 2005, 2006, 2.9 turbo only. There's the part number if you want it. Okay, write that down. You can see where the alternator is. It requires you to take the intake manifold off to do all this, so it's not that big a deal. It takes you about an hour. Get the intake off. Got to pull the cover, air intakes, turbo boots, stuff like that, air box. All comes out one shot. So we'll go ahead and take it apart and I'll show you if it works or not. Alright, there's the air box. All that is this clamp here, this connection here, and 2 bolts up here. That's it. One there and one there, 10 millimeter. And you'll take that whole thing out in one shot. Okay? It's just basically, that's how it's stuck on them screws right there. Okay? And you pull that out. You got 1 Torx there and 2 Torx here. This air hose, you can take that clamp loose. There's a clamp right there. There's 2 clamps there and 1 clamp there. The intake or the pressure out boot comes off first. That's it. And then you just take this and wiggle those off. That's it. Okay. And then you do the same for these after you take the screws out of them. See, this one here just comes off the same way. That's it right there. Got a vacuum hose on the bottom here. Actually, you got 2. You got this big one and there's a small one. You can't get them mixed up after you take it apart because they only go 1 on each one. So then we'll get the fuel rail off, this bracket for the shroud, and then we will get the intake off. We're going to take that hose off, and I believe there's a hose there, and I think there's something under here we got to get loose. Yeah, throttle body. Now this is fly-by-wire, means there's no throttle cable, and that boot there is attached to the throttle. It's just got a clamp on it, just like these up here. So we'll go ahead and get those off and we'll come back. See, this one here's got a bad turbo. You can see it's weeping oil. That one's dry. That one's the driver's side turbo and that's the passenger side turbo. It's not getting bad enough to change yet, but it will here pretty soon. Alright, that took all of about 5 minutes to get that off. Now, drain the fuel out of that fuel rail, pedal up on the ground. The return, or the pressure for this fuel rail goes right here through that line. Don't lose the O-ring that's up inside of there. Try not to damage it. And there's a clip that goes around this with a screw that holds it. Okay? And then I just leave everything intact and just lay it off to the side. This hose I actually replaced the last time I was under here because it was broke. Well, I wonder what that's for. Okay. Now you just got 10 millimeter bolts, hold the intake on. Remember that cold air boot down here? We got to get it off the intake, or get it off the throttle body. And this here, you got to kind of manipulate out of your way to get some of these bolts. And you can get these bolts with a wrench, is what I get them with. I get them with like a little ratchet wrench. There's a couple that are a pain in the neck. It's actually this one right here. You can't barely see it. Yeah, you can't see it at all really with the flashlight. Yeah. Yeah, it's right there. Anyways, it's in this corner. That's 10 millimeter. I get it with an extension and a wobble extension and a 10 millimeter socket. The rest of them are pretty straightforward. Try not to drop that one because it never hits the floor like you would think it would. And then when you put your injectors back in, I rub a little grease around the O-rings so they don't tear when you're pushing them in the holes. There's a 10 millimeter bolt threaded into the bottom of the intake that holds that. I usually get that with a wrench, but you got to turn around this way to get it because your hand doesn't work like that. It works like this. Okay, anyways. And then you just lift the intake off and then we'll show you how to change that voltage regulator without taking the alternator off. Alright, that's the little ratchet wrench I use to get these out. Okay. It fits right in here. You have to get, after you get it loose, you have to get a screwdriver or something in here so you can pry this back a little bit, but be careful that you don't bust any vacuum lines. And then that's how we get those out. See how I got the screwdriver jammed in there? So it moves the screw away, or the harness away from the screw. And these screws generally come out pretty easy. You know, I'm just using these two fingers to kind of turn it a little bit at a time to get it loose and get it out. Alright, there's the clamp. You can see it right there. I'm shining light dead on it. For the hose on the throttle body, the cold air intake. Now what I done is last time I was in there, I actually adjusted it so I can get at it with a 7 millimeter nut driver. And just loosen it up and that boot will pop right off. And that's the ratchet wrench I use to go up here and get this dipstick bolt. Okay, it's not too bad. We got the intake loose. We're going to go ahead and pull it off and we'll show you from there. Okay, we got the intake off. Rather than unhook these lines off the bottom of it, which are fuel lines and stuff off the bottom, because they're kind of a pain in the neck because that fuel line there goes in that groove and it's really hard to get that thing manipulated where you need it. I just pull it up here and just wire tie it to that brace because that's all we need to get at right there. Okay, don't forget to pop that back on because it will pop off, that big vacuum hose to that canister. And those two bottom bolts, remember we was talking about getting those two bottom bolts out there, right there. If you look at the bottom of the intake, it's notched. So you can actually leave those bolts in. Just loosen them up, like I've got that one right there. Just loosen them up so you can slip that intake out. And what that does is holds that gasket in place. And then make sure you stuff a rag in there. And this is what I was telling you about my bad turbo. Okay, we're going to go ahead and put a rag in there and we're going to get working on that right there. And this, what you see here, is taking all of 30 minutes. That's even with going and getting the tools out of the toolbox. So all we've needed was 10 millimeter wrench, a ratchet. This is what I use to get this corner bolt, like I was telling you. Okay, we got that. A screwdriver. We use this one, 10 millimeter, for dipstick tube. There's the bracket on the dipstick tube. 7 millimeter for that, and a Torx to get air boots and stuff off, and that's basically it. That's about all the tools you need. So we'll go ahead and get, we're going to need like a 13 and a Phillips screwdriver for the alternator, but we'll stick these up here. and we'll get at it. All right, make sure you unhook the battery. And I like shoving a rag in here. That way if it pops back up there, it's not going to touch that terminal through the rag. And then we'll go ahead and get the alternator, back of the alternator taken apart. First thing you want to take off is the battery cable on the bottom, and this just holds that cover on. Those are 13 millimeter. Use a 1/4 inch ratchet, and we'll take those off. Okay, you have one 12 millimeter, 13 millimeter nut here. You got one 13 millimeter nut that holds the cable on, and then a nut under there, and then one Phillips screw that we're going to have to use a longer Phillips screwdriver right there. And that'll take that cover off. And this is what we're after, right here. So it looks like 2 Phillips screws, 3 Phillips screws. You got one here, and then one up there. We'll go ahead and take those off, and then I'll show you how that comes out. All right, took 2 screws out, or 3 screws out, and that thing just pops right out. You can see that's a brand new piece on a brand new alternator. That's the second brand new alternator. I've swapped this out, and I've also tried to rebuild the old alternator that's in the back building, or the back room, but they keep giving me the wrong voltage regulators. See the number on this one, okay, is definitely not the same as this one. And this is an OEM part. There's our brushes. I mean, it looks identical. It does, but it's not. This one is a self-excitable one. This one is a computer-excited one. And for those of you that don't know what that means, is when you start the car up, they don't just naturally charge, because if they did, it would basically drain the battery down. When you shut it off, if you ever have one where you shut it off and the battery goes dead after a day or two, and you unplug that hot wire off the alternator overnight and it starts up the next day, it's got a bad voltage regulator. Or a diode. The diode is basically allows the electricity to go only one way, and that's out. If the diode's bad, the electricity goes back in and bleeds off the ground. If you got one where the light glows in the dash, the alternator light, it's got a bad diode. If you got one that doesn't charge, you know, like the light will be on when you first start it up, but if you rev it up and the light goes out, bad voltage regulator. And that's what the self-exciting means, is that put 12 volts to that, it turns the voltage regulator on and makes it charge, okay? The old one I just took off basically self-excites. It knows it's running, it automatically charges. This one here is excited by the computer, and that is this green wire right here. So, if you were putting this in an old alternator, I would recommend pulling the alternator apart, cleaning where the brushes run, which are these here. But this is a brand new alternator. This alternator here don't have 1,000 miles on it. It's actually been on here for a year or so, but I haven't been driving it. So we're going to go ahead and put it, and it's just reverse. How you took it apart is how you put it together. So we're going to go ahead and put it together. I'll come back maybe once or twice and show you a couple things that you don't want to overlook, and then we'll try it out. All right, there's the alternator all put back together. Now I will touch on this. If you're having problems or even think your starter is questionable, replace it now, because you got to take the intake off to replace it. If you need your throttle body cleaned, this is the time to do it. I would take this banjo nut off the bottom here and go ahead and flip that over, clean it out really good. I've already done mine the last time I had this apart, so you know it's not even dirty because there's just, like I said, between 500 and 1,000 miles on it since the last time I worked on it. 128,000 miles I put these tires on. You can actually go back and look at the video, you know, tires for the Swedish Pig or new shoes for the Swedish Pig or something. That was what, 2 years ago? And it's got 131 on it now, so there's 2,000, 3,000 miles on it from 2 years ago till now. I don't drive this that much anymore. Gas mileage is horrendous. I always got something that's got better gas mileage to drive. If we go on a trip, I take it, but other than that, no. I've had these alternator problems for so long that I've just not taken it anywhere. So we're going to go ahead and get it back together. This has to go up through the center here because it goes to that vacuum port. Make sure you get this back on there, and the gasket stays where it's supposed to. And we're going to go ahead and start putting that back together. Alright, we got everything together. Make sure that's plugged in. Okay, make sure you get the two vacuum hoses on under here. You can see one of them right there. Look it over, make sure you didn't lose any tools. Leave anything laid down there. Make sure the fan spins freely so you didn't get anything jammed down in there. We will go and put the battery in, battery cable on. Okay. And then we'll, in real time, turn the key on and off a couple times because you drained all the fuel out of the rail. Okay, let's go ahead and that's what we want to watch over here. We don't run out of gas first. I believe we got it. That's it. Because what, took about 8 or 10 seconds for it to come on the last time. And it's not coming on this time. Oops. Let's see what kind of tailgate's open. We know that. We know the gear selector thing is bad. Alright. Look at there. That's the first time in a long time we had red lights lit up in the dash. One there and then one there in the center. That's it. Alright. Now we got to make sure we're not leaking any fuel. You'll know if you are because it'll be puking all over the place from right about here. And it'll puddle up on that manifold right there. We're good and dry. So we got this done. Got the timing belt in it, water pump. That's when I had to make that fitting down in there. Alright. So we got it. Put the battery cover stuff back on and then we will back it out.